This week, I've been blown away by the Summoner. This repriced Trials of Osiris weapon is a crit laser beam with heals, consistency, and crazy damage perks that all combine to create one of the best auto rifles in Destiny 2. I'm going to do things backwards for this review. God roll perk combos up front, no delay. This will let us dissect the perks, how to use them, explain why we didn't choose something else, and conclude with full God rolls of which one is right for you. Plus the best way to get it, because getting this auto rifle is very achievable for any player, and it is absolutely worth your time. I played a card with 2.5 KD players this weekend who had never been flawless in all of Destiny 2, and they both got the Summoner to drop for them, so I'm definitely going to touch on that at the end. Okay, I gotta be honest, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Summoner before this refresh. I just never felt like adaptive frame 600 RPM auto rifles could compete. A 0.8 second TTK wasn't bad, but staying in the lane for 0.8 seconds without being able to burst fire is bad when faced with the SMG and special weapon meta we were in. So, with the sandbox changing, the Summoner is generally shining a little brighter anyways, but it's the new perk pull that has me hyped today and what got me to roll literally hundreds of different versions to figure out which ones are the absolute best. I've landed between Heal Clip or Zen Moment in the third column with Kill Clip or Onslaught in the fourth. I know it could feel like the no-brainer to automatically look for specifically Heal Clip, Kill Clip, or Zen Moment Onslaught, but they mix and match really well, leaving you with 4 incredible options we're gonna break down. You'll notice that's leaving out Target Lock, Dynamic Sway Reduction, Perpetual Motion, Elemental Capacitor, Tap the Trigger, Golden Tricorn, and even Incandescent for PvE. All great perks, some of which I even gravitated towards initially. We'll talk about them, but none of them came close to the highs you get with Heal Clip, Zen Moment, Kill Clip, and Onslaught. Here's why. First up, Heal Clip. Heal Clip got a massive buff, and it is changing the way I play Destiny. Previously, Heal Clip will give you Cure ×1 when you'd reload within 5.3 seconds of a kill, but now it's giving Cure ×2. That is double the amount of health Heal Clip is now giving in both PvE and PvP. In PvP, that is a 100% increase for the perk as opposed to the 15% health increase everyone got with the new sandbox. So the buff isn't just making up for the Crucible changes, it is a massive buff to Heal Clip. This allows you to re-engage so much faster when you're stuck between multiple opponents and you're healing without any extra help from your subclass or exotic, which means that healing is frequently to your enemy's surprise. Y'all, this is something else. I had a moment in Trials this past weekend where I found myself in a 1v3 running double primary and the fight lasted nearly 60 seconds through multiple reses, and I still came out on top thanks to the way I could use Heal Clip to keep jumping back in the fight. They just never expected me to keep going. Of course, I was stacking this with other perks between the two weapons, like how the artifact mod Flint Striker made me radiant because the Summoner is solar. Don't sleep on that perk. But it would not have been possible if it weren't for Heal Clip and how solid the Summoner is. Now, that was just me playing solo, which I got to shout out is important for Heal Clip being on a Trials of Osiris weapon because Alacrity will max your reload speed to 100 if you're last man standing. Heal Clip doesn't stop at just you though. It gives Cure ×1 to nearby allies too. That's 30 HP in PvP if you're just randomly gifting it to your fire team. I played a few rounds where multiple players on my team were running Heal Clip and Cure ×1 was just constantly popping up on my screen. If you play tight with your team, I'm not talking stacked on top of each other, but actually pushing at the same time and trading out players in a fight, that Cure ×1 can make a big difference for turning the tides of a fight. Between a full fire team and Trials, you could heal up to a total of 120 HP from 1 kill. I honestly feel like that's a bit much. I could see this getting changed later because just 60 HP to yourself is a big deal. A quick tip on using this perk that a lot of people are gonna miss, you can use Heal Clip just for the utility and then swap weapons to something with Harmony, Discord, or Cascade Point active. I did this all the time and it gave me the potential to come in swinging heavy damage along with my new health. I didn't have to stick with just the Summoner. Cure ×2 is an even bigger deal in PvE. It is laughable how good Heal Clip is now. It was already decent, but now I feel indestructible. In PvE, Cure ×2 is 120 HP all to yourself, and then you've got that Cure ×1 giving 60 HP to nearby teammates. A lot of people are combining this with other healing exotics or subclass aspects, but I genuinely feel so powerful just using it as is. Any room with high density of ads creates opportunity for instant lifelines, and there are plenty of ads in pretty much all the content we've got right now, and it's just fun. Keep me in the action, keep me engaged, I'm all about it. The problem is, I'm all about the next third column perk too, at least in PvP. ZEN Moment. Oh my gosh, I already thought the summoner was easy to use. No matter how I set it up, I could hit my shot. Sometimes I miss, but I felt like it was on me. Everything pretty as usual about the gun. Then I put on ZEN Moment. This perk turns the summoner into a crit tracking laser beam. This is coming from someone who doesn't blanket statement recommend ZEN Moment on everything. On Taraxipos, I recommended Eye of the Storm, keep away, and moving target over it. I'm not one to just say, yeah, ZEN Moment, that's what you want. I even usually prefer dynamic sway reduction over ZEN Moment, so believe me when I say it completely slaps on this auto rifle. I feel so confident taking on any 1v1 with ZEN Moment because as soon as I hit one bullet with the summoner, I'm granted a very noticeable amount of flinch resistance along with my reticle bounce and my visual weapon shake being reduced by 34%. Then it continues to be reduced again and again and again by the same amount until I've landed the max of 5 stacks of that visual stability and that flinch resistance. I know outside the flinch resistance, everything it's doing is visual, but I swear, on the summoner, my reticle just sticks to the enemy's head. I did duel after duel with a summoner that didn't even have a great damage perk because that is just how hard I could rely on ZEN Moment. So even if you don't get your perfect roll, if you got a summoner with ZEN Moment, particularly one with high range, which we'll get to later with the recommended stats, just try it out. It's way more impressive than I thought it'd be, to the point that I'm deleting my perpetual motion, elemental capacitor, and even my dynamic sway reduction rolls. They just don't hold a candle to how ZEN Moment feels despite me loving dynamic sway. I could see some arguments for subsistence to stack with 4th column perks, but ultimately even that perk will fall short of either ZEN Moment or Heal Clip in PvP or PvE. So that's 2 incredible 3rd column perks, and we've got 2 incredible 4th column perks to match, Kill Clip and Onslaught. And as we get close to those, if you've enjoyed what you've seen so far or like weapon deep dives, it'd mean the world to me if you gave the video a like or subscribe. We're rapidly gaining on 50,000 subs and I'd love to have you on the journey. Maybe let me know what you think about the summoner so far in the comments. Okay, Kill Clip and Onslaught, they're both great and you can use them both in slightly different ways. To address the elephant in the room before we start with these, yeah, I don't think target lock should be on your list for the summoner. While it was only nerfed on SMGs, it still does not change your optimal TTK values on this auto rifle. And I just did not find it to make a difference in any duel I had the way that everyone is saying it does on the Prosecutor. Maybe it has to do with how the summoner fires faster, needs more bullets to connect than the Prosecutor, I'm not sure. But the math shows it doesn't change the optimal, and that was my experience as well. Onslaught, however, is a massive highlight. When you get a kill, you've got 4.5 seconds of Onslaught times 1. And this can be refreshed and stacked up to Onslaught times 3. Each stack gains you a faster RPM and reload speed. A lot of people skip over that second part, but yes, you get more and more reload speed as you stack up the perk. This is what lets it stack so easily with Heal Clip and why you shouldn't settle for just Heal Clip, Kill Clip. Heal Clip Onslaught is deadly, and showing my cards a bit here, probably my favorite roll. We'll compare them all at the end, but I love Heal Clip Onslaught. Okay, staying on track. Onslaught gives you plus 15 reload at times 1, plus 25 reload at times 2, and plus 35 reload at times 3. Then it brings your RPM from 600 at base to 714 RPM at times 1, 833 RPM at times 2, and up to 952 rounds per minute at times 3. In PvP, a 952 RPM summoner is a 0.5 second TTK with Onslaught times 3. For reference, that is the exact time to kill value of Golden Tricorn's times 2 50% damage buff, which requires abilities and feels like a few more hoops to jump through for many players. Plus, Golden Tricorn times 2 can't be refreshed on weapon kills, only abilities. Onslaught times 3 can just keep going and going, adding that 4.5 seconds on the timer after every elimination. Now, I know Onslaught times 3 won't happen for most people, even for me, but Onslaught is worth it even at times 1. Onslaught times 1 is a 0.67 second TTK at 714 rounds per minute, and it feels fantastic. I have an immediate boost of confidence as soon as it's active due to the bullet hose it becomes, but I also feel that bullet hose frequently flinches the enemy off of me as well. Now, it's not quite as fast a TTK as Kill Clip, but it is really close. Kill Clip is 0.6 seconds as opposed to Onslaught times 1's 0.67 seconds, so that's only 0.07 seconds of difference between the two, and Onslaught activates immediately, just like Rampage or Golden Tricorn would. Rampage is just flat out worse. It's the exact same timer and has a worse time to kill value at every stack. Then Golden Tricorn isn't quite as fast to TTK as Onslaught, but I'll hand it to Golden Tricorn. It does have the longest timer here, 7 seconds, and Solar is a great class to run Golden Tricorn on in PvE. But ultimately, I've found a lot more success and more fun in running Onslaught, since it is just a stacking bullet hose. I will say, Onslaught ×3 is a bit crazy to control sometimes on the Summoner. At the right range, it's fine in PvP, but in PvE, I was frequently engaging in distances that felt impossible to land, and that really led me to the next damage perk, Kill Clip. Kill Clip is as great as everyone says it is. I said earlier, don't just settle for Heal Clip, Kill Clip, but it is great because Kill Clip remains very good on adaptive frame auto rifles. In PvE, it felt easier to control than Onslaught, has slightly longer timer than Rampage, and has more initial damage than both Rampage and Golden Tricorn. It's just easy, it stacks perfectly with Heal Clip, and it grants that 25% buff that's nothing to brush off in any activity for how simple the perk is. I even found more value in that quick damage over Incandescent, which really surprised me. I had a Heal Clip Incandescent roll drop for me. I'm telling you, I tried everything. But I was not satisfied with the way it performed versus the way Kill Clip could mow ads down. I'm sure if you really built into Incandescent, it could fly, but I just don't like being tied down to just Solar. On top of Kill Clip's damage in general, the activation of reloading syncs with the Trial's origin trait, Alacrity, just like Heal Clip, to max out your reload at 100 whenever you're last man standing or solo. So any solo activity you do, you can just immediately reload after a kill and have that damage buff and get healed. Pretty incredible. We already talked a bit about Kill Clip's 0.6 second TTK in PvP. I mentioned how I preferred Onslaught over it due to the flinching bullet hose, but Kill Clip has plenty of pros. You already know, 1. Kill Clip's 25% damage buff is slightly faster TTK than Onslaught ×1. 2. It syncs with Heal Clip and Alacrity on the reloads, but also 3. It's easier to control than Onslaught's RPM boost. What I mean by that is it's the exact same feel as if you don't have all the damage. So if you're landing the shots before, you can land them now, whereas Onslaught, it can feel unwieldy if you're not prepared for it. And then 4. You can manually extend the timer more than you might think. On paper, sure, it's 5 seconds long compared to Onslaught's 4.5 seconds, but you can wait on the reload up to 3.6 seconds. If you master that and wait a moment before you reload if you don't see anyone on the radar, you've got over 8 seconds to find your next target. That's longer than Golden Tricorn's 7-second timer, but giving you a greater damage buff. Okay, let's talk specific god rolls. For the Summoner PvP god roll, you're gonna want some range. I actually got a roll that was all stability, 100 stability with Alacrity, and it seemed like it never really changed the way the weapon felt in a real game, other than the fact that I didn't have the range to fight back against all the prosecutors out there. The stats back up this gut feeling I had for an all-range roll too. The Summoner has nearly the worst range out of all the adaptive frame auto rifles, and adaptive frames are already pretty bad with their range stat compared to precisions and high impacts. The Summoner is fine with stability, so the masterwork, I'm absolutely looking for range. The barrel, same thing, anything with range, corkscrew extended, full bore, hammer forge, or small bore. My favorite of them was hands down extended barrel for the +10 range and that bit of extra recoil direction control with it. It's not super necessary, but I found I liked rolls with it more than without. The mag is probably the most flexible part of the roll I'd look for. Armor piercing, high cal, ricochet, or light mag all give +5 range. I'd go light mag if you wanted some range and reload speed, but ricochet if you're more concerned with landing that first kill. I'd ultimately choose ricochet rounds because I play modes where Alacrity is gonna kick in, and when it does, my reload is gonna be maxed out anyway, so light mag wouldn't do much. Then throw on an Adept range mod if it's an Adept roll. Otherwise, targeting adjuster worked just fine. Now the tough question, Heal Clip, ZEN Moment, Kill Clip, or Onslaught. I think this is where it majorly comes down to how you play the game. What are you good at and what are your weak points? In the third column, if you're the type of player who just needs all the help they can for the first kill and that's your focus, then ZEN Moment is absolutely the perk for you. It's going to help you win those duels and it's going to give you a chance to fight back. It was shocking how much better the gun feels with it. But if you're going to get that kill anyways and you feel good with this auto as is, then Heal Clip is the play for you. It saved my life more times than I can count in really tough situations I should have not won, had no chance of winning. 1v2s, 1v3s, you name it. I played extensively with both Heal Clip and ZEN Moment, just constantly swapping them out because they both felt great in their own ways. But at the end of the day, Heal Clip was the perk that stood out. It synergizes with the 4th column and the origin trait, and outside of Abyss Defiant from Crow to ZEN, this is the only auto rifle it's found on. So that's my 3rd column choice. Absolutely no shame in ZEN Moment though. I was split hardcore between the two myself, and I think they both have their place. The 4th column is even harder to choose from, and this one isn't so much about your playstyle as it is, I hate to say it, the way that it feels. You might literally have to try both Onslaught and Kill Clip rolls to see what fits for you. If you're going for chaining kills, then obviously Onslaught for getting those stacks up to 0.5 second TTK 950 RPM stream of bullets, but like I said, it can be tough to control, and for some, that will automatically put you on Team Kill Clip. I'm personally on Team Onslaught though. The way it activates immediately if 2 people are charging me at once feels great, and in some ways I feel like adaptive auto rifles were made for Onslaught due to the massive magazine they come with over the other archetypes we have it on. Breakneck only has a magazine of 34 and Lethal Abundance is at only 32. The magazine on the Summoner is at 44. I feel very comfortable taking on an opponent with Onslaught without ever reloading from the first kill. So Heal Clip and Onslaught it is for me. For the Summoner PvE God roll, I feel quite a bit different. I wanted to like the same roll because it'd be great to just keep one, but like I said when talking about the perk, I think Onslaught is a little unwieldy for the distances you engage at in PvE. Kill Clip felt like a much bigger punch, and I loved pairing it with Heal Clip for the constant damage and healing synergy. You can go Incandescent or Golden Tricorn here if you're building into your Solar subclass, but that is the only way you'd get me to run the Summoner with those perks. Heal Clip, Kill Clip was just too good. I'd spec out the rest different too. I know Alacrity would boost my reload a lot if I was solo, but I'm frequently with other players in PvE, so I'm gonna spec into reload a bit with the reload masterwork. Then I'd look for any range stat boost in the barrel that didn't take away from my other stats, so small bore, hammer forged, or corkscrew. The more range the better, so hammer forged is ideal. Then flared magwell for even more reload, putting me at 81 reload for Heal Clip, Kill Clip whenever I proc it. I'll still leave Alacrity selected for when I am playing solo, but yeah, of course, if you're always with people, run wildcard for those Telesto bolts. On top of all of this, there has never been a better time to get loot from Trials of Osiris than right now. The Passage of Persistence essentially gives you a checkpoint in the card after every 2 wins in a row. So if you keep at it, you'll eventually get that Adept Summoner. Now, you can't go to the Lighthouse this way. You'll only get the Adept weapon drop, but I have heard story after story of how using Passage of Persistence has helped alleviate the fear and stress of Trials for many players. So much so that they gain the courage to try out a Mercy Passage and make it to the Lighthouse for the first time ever. Super cool stuff to see this far along in Destiny 2, and it's about dang time. Getting people wanting to improve in the Crucible is a huge win. Okay, to conclude, I really like the Summoner. The plays that are possible in both PvE and PvP from just reloading your gun are insane. I've been obsessed with the speed of Cascade Point for a while, but having these heals built in without sacrificing an exotic while having the speed or damage boost just feels so good. There are still problem areas. I don't want to say it's all a dream. Prosecutor is really strong and has a lot more range power than the Summoner has. Then up close, sidearms are ridiculously deadly right now, and we've got heliocentric with the same Heal Clip, Kill Clip combo that I absolutely love. So depending on the range you play in, the Summoner might not be the play for you. It kind of sits in that perfect middle ground mid-distance hotspot. It also has a bit of competition if you're just looking for speed on an auto from Onslaught. Rosarago 4 is the same archetype as a world drop with Repulsor Brace to combine with it. Granted, you gotta get lucky enough to randomly get that drop out of the blue, but we've also got Perpetualis from Season of the Lost that's craftable with Enhanced ZEN Moment and Enhanced Cascade Point available together. I know we talked Onslaught up here and it is highly idolized by the community right now, but Cascade Point is actually faster than Onslaught times 3, turning Perpetualis into a 1000 RPM adaptive auto rifle, and you did it after just 1 kill from a different weapon. That kind of blew my mind. I think between all those options, what makes the Summoner stand out is that it's a Trials of Osiris weapon. Alacrity is no joke, and to have that active for just playing any solo activity, dungeons, story missions, rumble, last man standing in 3s, that's pretty amazing, and it synergizes perfectly with the new perks on the Summoner. What will you be chasing this weekend? Let me know in the comments, and big thanks to everyone who clicked like on the video and to any new subscribers. I am seriously so glad to be here talking Destiny with you all. This has been LEGO LaFlash. Until next time, GG.